Hey guys, so today I have part 3 of the KBShimmer summer collection. Part 3 includes 10 flaky toppers that can also be worn on their own. All 3 parts are going to release on May 15th, and I will link my videos on part 1 and 2 down below as well. I will link KBShimmer down below so you guys can check these out when they release, and I will get into the swatches. So the first polish is called Sterling Example, and this is one of 4 silver flakies. There are 4 different sizes. This is the largest of the 4. I'm going to do the actual video on these ones, showing them how they wear on their own for full coverage, but I am going to have a side-by-side with my pictures of them as a topper and on their own, because they can also be used as a topper. So here's one coat of Sterling Example. You do have to do some placement with these ones because the flakies are so big. It makes it a little difficult to distribute it evenly on the nail. Like I said, you have to be careful not to swipe the larger flakies off as you paint. This is one of the harder ones to work with. It's not difficult, it's just more like a glitter than an actual polish. So there is one coat of Sterling Example. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here is 2 coats of Sterling Example. This one covers pretty well on the second coat, but it will need one more, I think, to cover the gaps in between the flakies that you can really see my nail through. This is very, very reflective. So there is 2 coats of Sterling Example. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a third coat. So here's 3 coats of Sterling Example. This one covers completely on 3 coats. If you look closely, you might be able to see some space in between the flakies where my nail sticks out a little bit, but it's not enough to need a 4th coat. And again, these can be used as toppers as well. And I have them all swatched over Essie's Mesmerized in the pictures. So there is 3 coats of Sterling Example. The next polish is called That's or Like It, and this is the second largest of the silver flakies. So here's 1 coat of That's or Like It. This one covers pretty well on the first coat. You do have to take some care to not swipe off what you've already applied, but not as much as you did with the largest of the flakies, because these particles are considerably smaller. The formula in this one and the other one is a tiny bit thick because it is so packed with flakies. Just kind of you have to glob it on and then spread the glob around, kind of like you would with a micro glitter. So there is 1 coat of That's or Like It. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here's 2 coats of That's or Like It. This one doesn't quite cover completely in 2 coats. You can still see a bit of my nail in between the flakes. It does cover better in 2 though than the larger flakies did, and I think the coverage is going to get better as the flakies get smaller. So there is 2 coats of That's or Like It. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a third coat. So here's 3 coats of That's or Like It. This one does cover completely in 3 coats. These flakies lay pretty flat and are pretty shiny on their own, but you will want to top coat them just to fill in any small kind of gaps in between the flakes. So there is 3 coats of That's or Like It. The next polish is called Reflect, and this is the 3rd largest or 2nd smallest of the silver flakies. This one and That's or Like It look very, very similar in the bottle, and I had a hard time looking just at the bottle to determine which one was bigger than the other, but on the nail you can tell the difference a lot easier. So here's 1 coat of Reflect. This one covers pretty good on the first coat. It does apply a lot easier than the other ones too. You can apply this one more like a normal polish without having to dab. The formula is really smooth on this one. It's not as thick as the other ones either. So there is 1 coat of Reflect. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here is 2 coats of Reflect. This one covers pretty well in the second coat, but there are still some gaps in between the flakies, so I'm going to do 3. Because this entire collection is flakies, the skin around and probably underneath my nails is going to be covered in flakies for most of the video. So there is 2 coats of Reflect. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a third coat. So here's 3 coats of Reflect. So 3 coats covers those gaps in between the flakies, so it covers completely. Even though you can see the difference in the size of flakies between this one and That's or Like It, on the nail, I still don't think that it's necessary to have both. I think these ones are similar enough that you'd probably only need to pick one. So there is 3 coats of Reflect. So the next polish and the last of the silver flakies is called Foiled, and this is a very, very fine silver flaky. So here's 1 coat of Foiled. This one covers really good on the first coat. It covers the best on the first coat out of any of them. This has a very smooth, very easy to apply formula. These remove like a regular polish as well. They're not hard to scrub off like a glitter, but the flakies do get everywhere. So there is one coat of foiled. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here is 2 coats of foiled. This one covers completely in 2 coats. I do think this one is my favorite out of all of the flakies, but it is the hardest one to wear as a topper. I think it's my favorite on its own, but it was kind of weird as a topper. You'll see in the picture, it just didn't look right. So there is 2 coats of foiled. The next polish is moving into the multi-chrome flakies kind of section of this part of the summer collection. This is called Take the Punny and Run, and this goes from a pink to a gold to a green to a blue to a purple. It's one of the shiftiest multi-chrome flakies I think I've ever seen, and it shifts very, very easily as well. So here's one coat of Take the Punny and Run. This is sparse enough on the first coat that you could use it as a topper, but I'm going to show it on its own today. They do build up really easily though. The formula on this is good. It's easy to apply. It's not too thick, and it does apply just like a regular polish. I don't have to do any dabbing like I did with some of the silver ones. So there is one coat of Take the Punny and Run. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here is 2 coats of Take the Punny and Run. This one doesn't quite cover completely on 2 coats. There are still some gaps in between the flakes. You can see the color shifting just as I tilt my nails. Some of these multi-chrome flakies, and even some in this collection, are really hard to see the shift. But this is, like I said, the shiftiest one I think I've ever seen. And that encompasses all brands too, not just KBShimmer. So there is 2 coats of Take the Punny and Run. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a third coat. So here is 3 coats of Take the Punny and Run. This one covers almost completely on 3 coats. You can still see a few gaps in between the flakes, but it's not enough to warrant layering on a 4th layer. Again, these remove easily. They're not difficult to remove like a glitter, but the flakies do tend to get everywhere. So there is 3 coats of Take the Punny and Run. The next polish is called Moody Hues, and this is a blue to purple to pink to gold shifting flaky. So here's 1 coat of Moody Hues. This one covers much better on the first coat than the last one did. About the same formula as the last one as well. It's smooth and it's easy to apply. Sometimes you get large flakies mixed in that can be a little bit difficult and want to like hang over the edge of your nail, but that's not very often. So there is 1 coat of Moody Hues. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here is 2 coats of Moody Hues. This one covers pretty well on the second coat, but I can still see through the flakies a little bit, so it is going to need 3. The shift on this one is not nearly as strong as it was on Take the Punny and Run. So there is 2 coats of Moody Hues. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a third coat. So here is 2 coats of Moody Hues. This one covers completely on 2 coats. Like I said before, you will want to top coat these. They don't dry super textured, but they aren't glossy, or I should say glassy. You can still see some gaps in between the flakes where one sits higher than the other. So there is 3 coats of Moody Hues. The next polish is called Green Weaver, and this is a green to purple. It's almost like it goes like purple to green, back to purple. But it is a purple to green shifting multi-chrome flaky. So here's 1 coat of Green Weaver. This one covers well on the first coat, just about the same as Moody Hues did. The formula feels about the same as well. So there is 1 coat of Green Weaver. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So there is 2 coats of Green Weaver. This one covers really well on the second coat, but again, I still can see some gaps between the flakes, although this has the least amount of gaps between the flakes on the second coat than any of the other ones that I've used so far. You can see this one has a much better shift on it than Moody Hues did as well. So there is 2 coats of Green Weaver. The next polish is called Prose and Bronze, and this is a gold to green shifting flaky. So here's 1 coat of Prose and Bronze. This one covers really well on the first coat. The flakies seem to be much smaller in this one than in any of the other ones too. The formula on this is good. It's really easy to apply and smooth. You do get the occasional like large flaky, but for the most part these ones are smaller. So there is 1 coat of Prose and Bronze. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here's 2 coats of Prose and Bronze. This one covers completely on 2 coats. I'm assuming it covers easier because the flakies are so much smaller. The gold in this one seems like a much more intense gold on the nail than it looks in the bottle as well. So there is 2 coats of Prose and Bronze. The next polish is called Look on the Nightside, and this is a blue, green, purple, pink, and gold shifting flaky. So here's 1 coat of Look on the Nightside. This one covers very, very well on the first coat, especially for being a larger flaky. The formula on this one is good. It's easy to apply. Sometimes you do get those larger flakies that you have to manipulate a little bit to keep them from getting completely out of control, but for the most part, these are easy to apply. So there is 1 coat of Look on the Nightside. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here's 2 coats of Look on the Nightside. This one also covers completely in 2 coats. It also has a pretty decent shift. So there is 2 coats of Look on the Nightside. And the last polish is called She's Beyond Kelp, and this is a green to blue, and I feel like I can see a tiny bit of pink there in the corners. So there's 1 coat of She's Beyond Kelp. This one also covers really well on the first coat. It has an easy to use formula. It's a little bit thick. It's another one of those ones where you kind of have to like glob on and then spread the glob around. So there is 1 coat of She's Beyond Kelp. I'm going to let that dry and come back for a second coat. So here's 2 coats of She's Beyond Kelp. This one also covers completely on 2 coats. Again, this one does have a thicker formula, so you kind of have to put a blob on your nail and then spread that around. And if you have any excess, be careful to kind of scrape it off with the brush and put it back in the bottle. So there is 2 coats of She's Beyond Kelp. So my favorites in this collection, silver flakies. So I couldn't pick. I mean, I guess if I had to pick from the 4 sizes of the silver flakies, I would pick foiled. Because I do really love that mirrored finish that it gives because everything is so small as it comes together. But really all 4 of these are incredible. I've seen a lot of silver flakies. I haven't seen any like as big as these get, but I've seen a lot of them, and they all have that kind of gold, like a little bit of a gold tinge to them. They're kind of like in between silver and gold. These are the truest, most silver ones that I've ever seen, and it makes them the most unique ones that I've ever seen. So I really, really like these because like a true silver one is what I've been trying to find with those kind of metallic flaky polishes, so I'm really excited that it actually exists now. So those are definitely my favorites out of the collection. Again, all the polishes in part 3 as well as the rest of the summer collection will be releasing on May 15th. I will link KBShimmer down below so you guys can check these out when they release. I post all of my picture swatches to my Instagram account, so if you guys want to follow me there, you'll be able to see them. Sometimes it takes me a couple days to do it, but they always get posted there. The video is not the only place that I have them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.